Yeah, I don't see Membo falling. I don't see us going for any of these D tackles. I definitely it's Starks, Barron, or Campbell. So now, so you got your cornerback solidified now.
Okay.
So second round comes and just maybe Nolan's there, maybe not. I don't know. Do you think he falls to the
I
second?
think he's a guy that's going to end up on a darn playoff team and wreak havoc for them. He's going to fall
Yeah,
back into
I
his
think the Bills
26,
would go for
27.
him. I think
Oh,
the
I
Bills
hate
would
that.
go for him.
I'd hate that. Look, I mean, he's going to a playoff team, I think. I
Yeah,
think he's in that 19, 20,
I agree.
that's his sweet spot. Late teens, early 20s. But look, I got a Jonas Savaiinaea liking, knowing that he could be a swing guard. He can compete with Liam. He could play if James Daniels has a God forbid setback. You know what I mean? So I like a Savaiinaea in the second round. I love Tate Ratledge, but he's a right guard. He's like a pure right guard. And that would
I'm just checking my notes. Keep talking. I'm
no,
checking
you're
my
good.
notes.
That would put an asterisk, meaning that you would have to move your premier signing, and I say that tongue in cheek, but that's James Daniels, was your big signing to left guard because he's really kind of a right guard with experience on both sides. So Ratledge might not be tailor made. So
Okay,
like
so my concern, I heard you mentioning Savaiinaea on
Yeah.
one of your other podcasts. So I looked into him. My concern is Savaiinaea, he lacks power. And he's got a little bit of an arm length issue. And at second round, it might be fine, but I love my offensive line, man. People probably tell me too much. But you got Jackson, no power. You got Daniels, who's got limited problems to power, but now he's coming off the Achilles. Brewer struggles with power. And then you're going to bring a guy in, and he worked great for our outside zone. But for me, in my evaluation, we've failed because we can't control the leverage of defenses. They play high leverage in the box and at safety. They don't blitz us. And then they play wide leverage on the edges. And they vacate the A and B gap because they know that we can't take it. And so for me, the key from 2021 is run the football interior, dominate that A and B gap, get the blitz, draw up the safeties, draw up the linebackers, get legitimate play action. I don't know if Savaiinaea does that. I'm not saying, I'm not.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. No, you're wrong. Stop. You're not wrong at all. If you're looking, if you're the scout in the room, and I love hearing like kind of stories that it happens. There's scouts in the room that pound their fist on the table. This is the guy, a coach, an offensive coordinator, offensive. If you want power, and Donovan Jackson is there from Ohio State,
I kind of liked him. I wrote him down.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a left guard. I mean, and he played left tackle when he came in for Josh Simmons, who would have been a top 12, 15 prospect if not for his injury. But Donovan Jackson's a guy, I don't know if he'll be around 48, but ironically, wouldn't it be Chris Greer to draft a corner in the first round and then to trade up a couple of picks to draft a left guard? And he's done that in terms of the trading up to draft a left guard. He did that with Liam Eichenberg. So that would produce a sense of irony. You're
trying to get me sick to my stomach over here? What's going on?
It would be poetic license or justice that another trade up in the second round, 10 slots from 48 to 38, gets a guy who can replace Liam Eichenberg. So it's almost like you're sweeping away your footprints with a broom.
I wrote him down. What do you think? Oh, God, I got him here. I put an exclamation mark. I liked him because he has the ability to move guys. He was a little bit of move issue, though, I think they were saying. What about Ratledge? You like Ratledge?
I love Ratledge. I mean, he's a mauler. I mean, he's on the right side. I mean, he's played right guard pretty much his whole college career. Can he play left guard? Probably, but he's another power guy. I think he's in the top 50.
So for me, like if okay, we're pretty dour on the situation, but everything that I've done, and I even made my own, like me and my Scotty's been on my show a couple times. We created our own analytics basket on offensive framework. And when you go through that offensive framework, it really says a lot. And if you could take Paul, who struggles a little bit on the move, though he dropped 10 pounds, but he's physical and he can dig guys out. And if you got a guy next to him who could dig guys out, you might be able to, in that red zone, get that extra yard. You might force guys in those 3rd and 1s to kind of bring guys up. And if you got the right guard there, you could dig guys out with a Jalen Wright who can then make that extra. And you could start forcing teams in those 3rd and 3s and 3rd and 2s because I was watching the year before, and it really was an eye opener. It was us versus the Dallas Cowboys. They were playing us in the red zone at like the 4-yard line in a dime. And if you could get 2 power guys, and you got you small little guys, the guys, Daniel's not terrible. He's not terrible against power, but I've seen him. He's good. He's way better than Eichenberg. But if you could have those 2 guys on the left, and then you could have Daniels, who's not terrible, and then you got Pharaoh Brown, you could start digging guys out, and you can create the leverage. You can get the linebackers taking a step forward instead of sitting or dropping. And it could start opening stuff. To me, that's what it's all about. I'm not saying it's the answer, but I would love us to pair Paul with a semi-powerful to powerful left guard. And yeah, they would know that's the power side. And they would know the yellow side is the move side. But Paul is so big that you might know it, and he still moves you. And if you got a guy next to him with Pharaoh Brown, then you start dictating. And so I like that. If we can, even if we find it later on, I just couldn't find the guys like I could find.
I'll give you a couple of guys that you can find in day 3. I mean, day 3, you're looking at Jackson Slater from Sacramento State. He has position versatility. He's a very good run blocker, but really good pass protector. You have Dylan Fairchild, who's a great pass protector. There are Miles Frazier, I think, is a guy you want to keep your eye on too, from LSU. There's interior guys who you can find in the top 115 picks, and the Dolphins are right there in 98, 115, a couple of picks later. Day 3, they have 7 picks. So do they stick at each one of those positions? I would be shocked if they do. I mean, you could move up the board. If you love a guy at 101 and you already picked at 98, move your 2 4th rounders up and go early. I'd do that in a heartbeat if you love it.
I would too. My only concern is if you watch, I don't really do the draft, but I watch the draft and I study it and I post or whatever. But I even go back to Warner when San Fran traded up in front of us because they heard we were like them the day before and we got stuck with Baker. And you saw last year, it seemed like the Steelers knew that we needed linemen and they kept taking the guys in front of us. The bad part about having the holes we have is everybody knows what we want. And my concern is that you're going to get teams to move in front of us or because we're kind of pigeonholed. And so this has got to be a master class draft. I think there's going to be some chessmanship. I think that Greer's because he always gets left behind. He'll draft like with his Kinley. He thought Kinley was the greatest thing since forever, which is totally like high. And then it was a bust. And, and Eichenberg, when all Creed Humphreys, Cosme, everybody after. So we have it. You're totally, totally right. My confidence level's low, but Greer can do it.
And look, I'll put this out there. 5 years ago, I was on board with Chris Greer, what he was doing. And the last year, the offseason that they let certain players go, the roster management has been what the heck is going on here? Like, what is making people want to eventually sign that next contract? You're not rewarding players who should be rewarded. So who knows what?
Think about it, Jason. Think about it. All the great players he drafted, he let go.
That's right. I mean, he let go his wins because he didn't want to overpay and he liked compensation picks. And to me, it's almost like throwing away a $50 lottery ticket winner to pay for another $2 lottery ticket that is going to scratch off, well, at best, a $10 win. It's just
the thing got me the most that I tried. I didn't like him as a person, but I was like, let me see. But when it was 2022 or 2023 when we went $10 and easy and we let Zach Tom go. That to me was so high. Like I'm like a nobody, but it was like he had the highest metrics in 30-something years. He was an offensive lineman. We had him in the building. How do you miss that? And to me, I think there's something wrong with him. like mentally. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't see, ask you, like, you're a trench guy like me. Football for its entire history has been foundation, just like chess, the center four squares. Control the A gap, then control the B gap. Offensive line makes the NFL world go round. And then Chris Greer comes and says, nah, I think differently.
I mean,
it's crazy.
The weird thing about Chris Greer is that he is now on 2 failed visions mimicking other teams. The first one being the Patriots. That didn't work.
Yeah.
The second being the San Francisco 49ers. That is not working. So now it's either let's see what his own personal vision is, or if he's going to try to replicate another team. And that's what it is. He's been trying to replicate other success or successful organizations, and it hasn't necessarily materialized.
That's a great point.
He's who is he? Like Chris? Who are you, man? Like I'm serious because he has tendencies of building different team structures.
I think it's a sign of a lack of character because he has no true conviction, really. I think that I don't think he's got he thinks he's extraordinarily intelligent. He comes across that way, but he's mimicking, and it's always a pastiche of somebody else with a higher vision, And so I'm hoping Marvin Allen and Champ Kelly are taking over. I think Chris Greer was almost forced a little bit too to put it all together in 22 because they wanted to raise ticket prices in 23. So I don't know. I got an electric thing over here. I hope it didn't knock you out or something.
No, I hear you. You're good. And, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen now.
Yeah.
I don't know if Greer is that loud of a no, shut up, I'm going to do it my way at this point, but there are people in the building who probably have their own visions, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this draft materializes because you can know a Chris Greer pick when you see one. I mean,
it's what I mean? Under the garbage pail.
Well, he's done well in certain areas, but in certain situations, the pick has been, huh?
Yeah.
And you wonder why. I mean, you could wonder with the Cam Smith pick. He hit on Achane, but that was it. That was it for that draft. It was just Achane. He picks Elijah Higgins and Ryan Hayes, trades Higgins right after. That's a mistake. And or cut something.
Yeah, he caught him in Arizona. He thought he could get him back on. He's always trying to save a penny to lose $1.
Exactly right. It's kind of asinine management, but this draft is so important where it has to be not necessarily a Chris Greer structure draft, not necessarily this or that. Get the best player of need that's available. You know what I'm saying?
I'm voting for Jason Sarny to take control. I'm voting for you.
Oh my God.
So what do you okay here? Third round. To me, that the first 2 rounds, I think there's so much talent. You can't really screw that up. But that third round starts getting a little dicey. I think that's going to be a pivotal pick, that third round, because you're kind of tailing at the end of the first top 100. That's a no man land where Greer decides to pick the kicker who he thinks is going to change the universe or something. So what are you going to do in that third round? What do you like? What's a player that you think it could be there, position, whatever? What do you where do you think he's going to go too? It's a two-way street.
Well, if I'm playing off of my model where I'm going with a cornerback first, and let's say I end up with an interior offensive lineman, I'm looking at the defensive trenches again. I mean, I know I didn't go there in day 1 or early part of day 2, but if my guy, Donovan Jackson is there, round 2, let's say I go Will Johnson, Donovan Jackson. So now I'm looking at the defensive trench and who could be available. I don't think Alfred Collins will be available at 98. I like Ty Robinson from Nebraska. He probably won't be available.
I like Ty Robinson too.
And you know what? I would go with him if he's there. I would go with the kid Joshua Farmer out of Florida State. Good story on him. Do that backstory. If you want to go a little later on defensive line, Jordan Phillips, not the Jordan Phillips of Dolphins. I know. Don't get it to the name recognition. But I like Jordan Phillips. That's where it kind of ends for me. If you're going into the higher areas to draft a defensive lineman, not Kenneth Grant, not Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon. You mentioned your guy, Talik Williams.
Do you like him, Talik?
I don't dislike him. I don't dislike him at all. There are guys that I would say, okay, That's fine.
What's your review on him?
I mean, he could play 3 downs on the defensive line, and there's versatility there. So that fits. That fits for the Dolphins. Every defensive lineman that's in the top 7 or 8 in this class fits for the Dolphins. So I think they can get one. And, I like his size. I like his power. He could work very well with Zach Sealer, so he'd be a fine pick, but that's a day 2 pick to me. That's not a first rounder unless they trade back into right. Exactly. So, day 1 and day 2, I'm getting one trench player and a defensive back. In this case, it was the cornerback.
Yeah.
So then all bets are off. And then I think it's best player available at your need. You can go wide receiver.
If you look at what we're trying to do, this McDonald's defense from the Ravens, they had Pierce and they had Jones. They had 2 huge stalwart guys. And because we like to run those small fronts, even on first down, you need these massive guys to pull all the blocking into the interior and just soak up 2 blocks to let these other smaller guys free. Benito Jones don't do it. He is not good. Occasionally he'll jump the snap and he'll be like, oh, but then other than that, he's no good. Sealer, I love Sealer, but I don't like him in a 0, 1, and even 2 because he's so high cut that if you watch him when he gets double blocked, his hip buckles, and that's scary for his health. I like him in the 3, 4, and 5. And if you get a guy like Shalik and Nito next to him, you just imagine the freedom you could get with Sealer and even like a Chubb, who I think maybe he might not have the pop he used to, but maybe he puts on a little 15. He could be the 280, 85 range. He could play that 4 or 5, and you have a nice 4-man front, and you could wrap a light look around them. But we need some big boys, and I wasn't really big on Williams, but that Dolphin Realtor has been on. He's a real smart guy, and he's missed the draft too. And he's like, I like Sheila. And I started watching him. Like, this guy's 334. He has some Yeah, I like that. That's the leverage part. I don't like these tall interior guys.
I agree with you. Raekwon was nice, but he was like a note. Like again, that leverage. But I like the defensive 3-tech capability of Williams too. So defensive interior lineman.
Mm-hmm.
This is the best class that you can imagine when you're needing 3 of them. They can triple up in this position with their 10 picks. So
I think they should.
There's no problem with me. If they can get 5 picks that are offensive linemen / defensive linemen, 3, 2, 2, 3, however you slice it, that's a win because you have 5 more fun picks after that.
I'm gonna go check Donovan Jackson to see if
I'm
gonna check him out.
He's fun.
Check him out.
I mean, he's a guy you asked to go from left guard as a guard over to left tackle, didn't miss a beat. I
remember reading about. I was reading about him today, and I remember liking what I saw. I put an exclamation mark. I was going to go back to him.
He could be the 31st, 32nd pick.
I just don't think Greer's doing it. I just don't. I think defense first 3 rounds, safety, corner. I said it, but I can't imagine him doing the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's so many options. It's going to be hard for him to screw up, but can he screw up? Yeah, but I wouldn't be shocked. It's just 10 picks. I can't imagine a second run of multiple digit picks screwing up. I just can't. And if it doesn't work, it has to be it. It has to be it.
So do you think it really is it for Greer, or do you think he's a lifer? Do you think that Tua and McDaniel are the next up on the chopping block? And he'll live for eternity. He's the immortal one.
It's almost like in sports, sometimes guys are like Teflon in certain executive roles. And for some reason, it seems like Chris Greer is. I wouldn't be able to tell people that he's keeping his job, but, we had another 9-8 season. We didn't make the playoff. Still, I wouldn't be able to have it. But if McDaniel doesn't progress and learn from his mistakes, I like the guy. I think it's a fun little aspect of what he brings to the table, a little difference. I don't care about the amenities that are so terrific in Miami. I don't think that's making them a soft team. What's making them a soft team is the players that aren't being able to make them a powerful team. So if you fix that mindset, McDaniel's play calling on 3rd and short, 4th and short was basically giving the ball to a ball carrier 5 steps behind the line of scrimmage. So now you need 3 yards to get your inches. It just never made sense to me. Is that McDaniel or is that the personnel or is it both? So if you get a mauler if you fix your offensive line, I shouldn't be able to have a headache or nightmares on 4th and short, 3rd and inches. That should be a ready-made run up the middle, not a sweep, not a toss, not one of these speed plays to try to circumvent your lack of power. So if we can get the personnel, that's Greer, and McDaniel can learn from his mistakes. He can win challenges. He can throw the flag at the right time when he wants to challenge. He can hire the right person to know when to tell him to throw the flag. That's management. That's football. Is it McDaniel's fault or was it the guy telling him to throw the flag? It's both McDaniel's fault to me, because if you don't recognize a guy who could do it properly, you're letting a guy who's incompetent doing it, and he's the worst in the league at those challenges. So there's a lot that he needs to do to keep him free from the chopping block, because in my eyes, I got Anthony Weaver, who could be a head coach in 2026 like that.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why he was brought back. And I think that's why Weaver's coming back, because he might have been told, listen, if it doesn't work out, you're already here, and I know he's going to want to be a head coach eventually. So to me, I think that there's a guy in waiting if this doesn't work out. So there's a couple of dominoes that may fall, but I think there's places in plan. There's plans in place for well, exactly. But McDaniel is not safe. Greer is safer than McDaniel.
Can you imagine that?
We're living it.
Now, just a little touch on McDaniel. I remember Tua saying, you know what, I go to the line of scrimmage and I know the play's not going to work, but I got to run it anyway. And if you go back and you watch many games, but the one that's like most ingrained in my mind is the Houston game last year, where you go there to the line of scrimmage, you got a pass called, and you got wide alignment on the defensive front. You got the linebackers sitting at 6, the middle at 6, and the nickel and the LB at 5, and you got cover 2 high and over leverage clearly, and he throws the football because there's no audibles in place. How do you, and Brady talked about a bunch of people. How do you not? I mean, I'm not talking about, Peyton Manning,
Manning would have changed that up in a second. He would have just given it to the halfback on the draw and run up the middle.
Two call plays. It's a pass or a run.
Right.
Get to the line of scrimmage. If I call fight, we're going to run the football. It's not that hard. I just don't. If we don't have audibles this year, I don't know what the heck that
there has to be a fix and a simplification of what McDaniel does. I mean, it's all, he's
that sheet motion's dead. That sheet motion's no.
I was going to say that has been figured out. It's gone way of the Wildcat. That's what the NFL does. They figure it out. 100%. And oh wow, the Dolphins have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle who are going to kill us deep. We're going to take away the deep. And then it's like, how many John O. Smith targets could you do to get you out of Dodge? Because what has the Dolphins' problem been overall positionally? Depth. So when you're throwing like virtually all your targets to 2 wide receivers, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and they ain't working, you need to spread the ball around better and more effectively. And I think that they need to get guys like Malik Washington involved. You need to.
Oh, yeah.
Donovan Smith had a hell of a year. He didn't get targeted basically at all in the first 6 games. He blew up once he hit week 7, week 8. And I know that was an injury.
There's a lot of curiosities, too. Man. There's a lot of
curiosities. Why don't you use Jalen Wright more? Jalen Wright was kind of getting teased that he was going to be used. Maybe some of it was on him as a rookie, maybe not. But when you see potential, let's run a guy through the wall a couple of times. It's like Bill Belichick would put a random running back in one day, and he'd have a heck of a game. Just give it a shot. Just give it a shot to let a guy shine, not give him 5 carries and you're done.
Well, my take on that, I won't go too long, is that football, and we talked about football's war, and it's a predatory sport. And so everybody, whether it's the player going against another guy, it's a DC going against OC against C, whatever you want to talk about, they're trying to find the weakness. And so the less weaknesses and the less severe weaknesses, the more difficult it is to stop that person or that team. And the Dolphins, because of their inability to be physical, their inability to block for prolonged periods of time, their inability to run in the interior, it's such a profound set of weaknesses that the defenses, they just ambush all the hot zones. They ambush the pocket posts over the middle. They ambush the deep play. The linebackers play high leverage, so they have the free run to the edges, which either takes care of the screens and the outside runs. And so because we are so imbalanced as of last year in the offensive line. Jones, he can't move, but he can power block. Eichenberg can't do anything. Brewer can only move. Jackson's not there. And when he's there, he's okay. And then you got Lamb, who can only pass block. And it just made it so easy. And Jalen Wright, you drafted him with 2 picks. You had to know he's an inside zone runner. He's between the A and B, occasionally on the C. He doesn't have the speed to break it to the outside, to run past the bad blocks. And so we set ourselves up because we are so limited. For me, in my evaluation, all starts with the blocking in the trenches, and that sets the table. It's better to have 5 guys that are average and then a bunch of guys behind them that are average depth, and they can inside zone, outside zone, pass block, than to have 2 or 3 high points and the rest of the guys like yodel. I mean, and I think that's the problem with us. We have so much weakness that the Predators, they know, they just, okay, they're going to run a football. I'm just lining the nose tackle over Brewer. It's going to suck Brewer and Eichenberg up, and I'm still going to blow him back there. It's just, you can't get, you look at when Gruden won, that offensive line was average. There's a few little high points, but it was mostly average, and they had depth. And that was enough. But we're not even average. We're below average. And then the guys that we have that are good, they're really good at one thing and they suck at something else. And so to me, that's I went on offensive line tirade. Sorry.
Everyone should, because they have not hit there.
I do this.
It's been a Swiss cheese line. It's been a line that they've tried to cross train. They've tried to turn this guy into that. And it's not
position
good.
Diversity.
And the funny thing is, like, you look at the raw numbers and you can say, Liam only gave up 2 sacks. It's like, because they get the ball out quick. Tua doesn't get sacked. He doesn't get sacked.
We don't get blitzed.
Blitz Tua. He's the best QB against the blitz. The defenses know to not necessarily blitz Tua because of the fact that he gets the ball out quick. He's a first 2 read quarterback. So why would you blitz him? You sit back. You read the hots. You take advantage of Tua having to throw the ball after 3 seconds without the blitz. He's covered. Third option, trouble.
Yeah.
So if you add that power component, if you see that, we're just going to run forward with our 5 guys and hand it off to our halfback. There's no power football anymore. It's all speed and outside, and they got to bring that power mindset back. And that starts with the trenches. Starts with it.
On that note, that's a great note to end it. So Jason, thank you so much for coming on. I really did enjoy the time, brother.
This is great, man.
I wish I had done this earlier. I'm really a shy guy. I don't like my mother. I come from a German family. You don't have to ask for help. You don't reach out. It's like, your arm's chopped off. Sew it up, kid. Move on. But I'm glad I did it. You're very.
You have left tackle. Let's go.
You're very likable, very funny, and very nice to come on here, and very intelligent. I hope we could do it again. So just tell us how we can find you. I know that everybody probably knows, but do it anyway. I don't know how to promote, so.
Curtis, you're great. I really appreciate the kind words. This was an absolute blast. I will always chop it up with you. You can find me on Twitter, Jason_Sarny. I write for Dolphins Wire, and I'm always happy to talk football with Dolphin fans.
Awesome, brother. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you enjoyed, because I did. Curtis and Jason saying go Fins. Curtis and Jason out. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with acebread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.